Dear friends, we've celebrated quite a string of particular feast days that allow us to peer into the mystery of God and to peer into that mystery in all kinds of different ways. So I remember Divine Mercy and Pentecost. Remember the Feast of Corpus Christi. This weekend, yesterday we celebrated the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And today we're kind of finally back just Sunday of Ordinary Time. Ordinary doesn't mean that it's plain. Ordinary means that all of the mysteries are taken together. We're not focused on any particular aspect of God's mystery, but we're invited to come and assume the whole of the mystery of God. So after these several weeks of us looking into God, we come to this 11th Sunday in Ordinary Time, and we allow ourselves to see God looking into the mystery of us. We see Jesus in the gospel today as the crowds are gathering around him, looking at him with impossibly hungry eyes, and standing among him who are impossibly impoverished, impossibly sick, and impossibly without God. Jesus, who is God, is looking now into the mystery of our life, and he finds such misery in our humanity that he is moved to compassion. Jesus, only accomplishing a few but amazing gifts in their midst, in casting out demons and healing the sick, he immediately began to amass the crowds who came to him, and each and every person in the hopes that some of this fullness would spill over to feed them in their misery. Some of the healing would spill over that they might be healed too. And some of the fullness and the richness of God's banquet would even fall upon them and satisfy body and soul both. God looked into the mystery of our life, and seeing the misery, he comes to set us on eagle's wings, is the imagery that we heard in that second reading today. That God set us on eagle's wings, and he brought us to such great heights that we couldn't hardly believe it. Out of these crowds, and out of that vision that the Son of God had of the people in these crowds, he chooses 12 men who he would name the apostles of his church. These would be the greatest men that God would choose and that God would entrust with receiving the gift of faith and faithfully handing it on even to us who live today. And so the 12 apostles chosen by Christ were not chosen because they were standout men. They were like us in every single way. And that should tell us something about what God saw in the mystery of our humanity. Yes, without God, we would still be as miserable as we were before. But now that he has come and he has seen and he has chosen and he has invited us into himself and poured out the gracious mercies and blessings from his own life upon us, we can become everything that he saw, but things that we don't often realize it already taking place in us. We are being prepared to become like God. And in the life of God, there is no misery. And even when the Son of God assumed the cross, even when Jesus Christ assumed the rejection and the abuse and being nailed to the wood and passing away to the contempt of the crowd, the Son of God assumed it as a painful experience, but he was not in misery, because a son of the Father is always the son of the Father. And everything that he suffered and endured, although painful in the flesh, it could not take away the gladness that God was offering himself to the Father in a perfect act of worship as only a son can, and that he could hand his life over, confident that his life would rise again, and it would be joined to the Father again in the kingdom that never passes away. This is what the Son of God saw when he looked upon the impossibly miserable masses. He saw what he was going to do in them. All of those mysteries of God's life that we were privileged to peer into and inspire our worship and our love and our devotion these past several weeks, that is the mystery that is now a part of us. We wanted to take time to peer into that mystery so that we can have a glimpse of what God would see in us if we faithfully abide and remain with him in faith, if we are loyal to him in this life, if we fight to hold on to the faith given to us, handed to us by the apostles. That will be the mystery of our life as well. Oftentimes, even after one is made a new creation in the waters of baptism, we grow tired and weary in trying to deal and combat the ever-present reality of our sin, our concupiscence. We get worn down, we get wearied from the battle and the struggle, and we sometimes forget that even in the hours of our failures, we may truly lose confidence in ourselves, which we often do, but we may never lose confidence in what God has already accomplished in our souls. Even a new man who has fallen into mortal sin is still a new man. Even a soul that has been devastated and weakened because of a long attachment to sin is still the new man. If we were the old man still before baptism, we would have no recourse. We would just be the walking dead. But we know, as the new men that God has made of us in the waters of baptism, that we have recourse to food, we have recourse to mercy, forgiveness, and to restore us to the graces that were given to us on the day of our baptism. We have recourse to the grace that strengthens and solidifies us in that grace, which is why we are gathered here today, to worship God and to be strengthened in the faith which he has given me the day that I entered his life through the waters of baptism. And to be reminded once again that it was not because of any merits of my life that God chose me. And the day that I was born, he saw me added among those vast crowds of the impossibly miserable. And because he had compassion on me, he brought me to the waters of baptism so that my miserable days might be done away with, and that I would live the rest of my earthly days as a new man, no longer poor, no longer destitute, no longer hungry, starving, but I would have recourse to the richness of our sacramental life as the church, on never losing confidence in God, oftentimes losing confidence in myself, but never him, because he was the one who saw what his grace would accomplish in my life when no one else would be able to see it. We are chosen not by our merits, but rather we are chosen by God's mysterious divine election. Each and every one of us here, whether we are a holy father, whether we are a bishop, a priest, a deacon, a religious man or a woman, married, unmarried, no matter what kind of a life we live, we were chosen. And in this choosing, that God will accomplish what he saw in the hungry masses. You will look like me.